Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk. The more I listen to some of your videos and listen to what you say, you made a lot of mistakes. And we got to critique it. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? This is Kid Shorty Gaming Nation. Like, share, and subscribe. Motherfucker, my beard. Food in my beard and shit. But like Peter Griffin and shit. Remember Peter Griffin had a bird in his damn beard and shit? Anyway, Charlie Kirk. People remember, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Donate if you can. You know, help me become a big thing in this space. And remember, I don't just talk about politics. I don't just talk about video games. I talk about a lot of issues, a lot of things. In the next video after this one, I'm gonna do something on why those matrilineal societies and indigenous cultures failed, and why, if we revert back to that, society would be in chaos, right? So I'm gonna do a video about that, another video about that, right? But Charlie Kirk, man, you told a lot of lies, bro, or half truths, I should say, and you didn't bring up the crime statistics of your own white community, which could be misleading, because now, while you're painting a picture to your conservative base, and I hold your conservative base more responsible, because you were just speaking things that they believe in to gain votes. Right? So the question was asked in one of my chats. Let me go to one of my comments. There was a comment asked in one of my chats of my video. Let me read the comment to you. And I should do it. Damn, I got 60. Damn, a bunch of people dislike my show. Yes. And I broke it down in this motherfucking thing. 3 people dislike this over there, and I broke it down in this video. These must be some hating ass conservatives in here that don't like facts. The way I break, like, if you listen to the way I structure and break down my videos, I give you a presentation and I give you the objective facts. So now if you dislike the video or you want to critique it, you got to critique the facts of what I say, right? Because I do what I do. Is this the chat? No, this is not the chat. And to the black people, right? To my black brethren, just like you want black people on the left to hold the liberals accountable and responsible for the things they're doing, I'm going to ask you black people on the conservative right to hold your own people on the right accountable for them, for hold them accountable, right? You can't ask the black people on the left something that you're not willing to do on your side. Because, see me, I'm neither liberal nor conservative. Well, I'm conservative in essence, and I'm a balance of both, right? I'm more balanced. I'm more in the center of things, right? And I voted for Donald Trump because I believed in Donald Trump, and I saw how Donald Trump, when he was firing a lot of people on the right or the Republican Party that weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, he was holding his own accountable. So when I saw him do that, I respected him a whole lot, and I voted for him because I believed in what he was doing. I still believe in what Donald Trump is doing. Understand? But I am not afraid to hold my own president accountable or the people party that I voted for accountable. And I'm hoping that black people on the conservative right can do the same. Just like you expect the black people on the left to do the same with their party, right? So let me show you this. One of the comment sections, somebody in one of my comments, he asked me this. Do you think Charlie Kirk generally wanted to help the black community, or was he purposely setting a negative narrative or creating a narrative via ignorance? And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to reply, no. No, I don't think he was trying to help the black community. Unity. What I think Okay. What I think he was just speaking towards his base or conservative with audience, audience, and what they believe, and what they believe, believe, or wanted to say but couldn't say it. Now, I hope I spelled the word believe properly. Hold on. Make sure I spelled it properly. Now, this is my assessment of Charlie Kirk based upon a lot of the videos I've heard him say. I don't believe he wanted to help Black culture. I think he was just saying the things that his base was audience because that's what they believe or that's in their thinking. When you go on Twitter, you hear a lot of conservatives defending Charlie Kirk or some of the half truths that they say. And they'll even say things that are not fucking true, not mathematically true. Like I seen let me go on X right quick. X. Shout out to Tommy Sotomayor, bro, because all the hate you take, and shout out to the Angry Man too, because y'all take a lot of hate, and y'all did a lot of the groundwork to make it possible for for guys like me to be here in these spaces. So shout out to y'all. So this is what was said to Tommy Sotomayor. All right. Look at this post. Shout out to Tommy. You're right. 3% of blacks are good, productive citizens. The other 97% requires the president to call out the National Guard to keep them from robbing and killing people. Now, that is not why Trump called the National Guard, right? Why did Trump call the National Guard to D.C.? Let me ask ChatGPT, bro. ChatGPT, what was the real reason behind Donald Trump calling the National Guard to D.C.? I heard it was because of some ambassador got assassinated or something like that. What was the real reason? So, immigration enforcement, right? Okay, that's what I heard. This is why I asked ChatGPT everything because ChatGPT will pull from the sources and see what really happened. So the real reason Trump ordered the National Guard to D.C., federalized control over D.C. police, etc., was officially to address public safety concerns, crime, carjacking, violent incidents, and to enable federal law enforcement, immigration-related enforcement to act more directly. There's no verified event like it. Okay, so there's nothing like that, right? So I guess it was that. But who says that 95%? Who says that 97% of this is strictly black people? How you know it's not Mexicans or white people themselves? You know what I'm saying? This is about conservative. This is how dishonest a lot of conservatives are, right? And I'm going to show you with stats and statistics today. 3% are productive, and the other 97%, that's insane. So we're going to go into some statistics today to prove how much bullshit that bitch is. Shout out to Tom. What the data actually says, according to the FBI Uniform Crime Reporting data for 2019, 59.1% of violent crime arrests, violent crime equal murder, or negligent manslaughter, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, were of white individuals by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Why did Charlie Kirk not talk about this? Also in the data, about 32% of those arrests were of black or African American persons of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. For rape assaults of adults in 2019, about 69.6% of arrests were white persons. About 26.8% were black or African American. So what? 33%, right? 59% violent crimes, right? 69 versus the 26.8. Now, some of you are going to say, well, 13% is responsible for 26.8%. But guess what? So yes, so let me read the rest of it. So yes, the 59.1% figure is a real statistic, but it's specifically about arrests, not convictions or proven crime rates. It's not a statement about who actually committed all violent crimes, just who arrested for them. So that's the nuance. You could be arrested for that because the police have a probable cause, but you may have not been convicted for it or found guilty of it. But they just lump arrest all into the same bucket, right? 59.9% refers specifically to arrests for violent crimes like murder, non-negligent, rape, robbery, aggravated assault. So yes, those white individuals were arrested on those charges. But again, doesn't mean they were convicted of it or they were guilty of it. But when white conservatives speak on black people, they speak as if we were convicted of these things, right? What I found, FBI Uniform Crime Reports, a national incident-based reporting system, provides numbers of arrests, but they don't track conviction rates by race. So they don't track conviction rates by race. So who should say that 26% is convicted crimes from black people? Right? There are clearance rates for some crimes, meaning solved or closed by arrest. But those are not the same as convictions. Clearance equals police believe they identified and arrested a suspect. It doesn't mean the case was tried or that person was convicted. For example, 2017, FBI data gives clearance rates for murder, 61.6% rape, 34.5% robbery, 29.7% aggravated assault, 53.3%, etc. The Bureau of Justice Statistics, BGS, in a report on race and ethnicity of violent crime offenders and arrests, 2018 provided data on arrests, but not conviction rates. You know what I mean? So these could be arrests, not actual convictions. But they contributed, but when you hear conservatives speak like Charlie Kirk, they will attribute this to these are actual convicted crimes that black people committed, or particularly black men. Arrest doesn't equal prosecution or conviction. Many arrested individuals are never convicted, charges dropped, plea deals, insufficient evidence. Different jurisdictions, different practices. Conviction rates are very wildly by state. County court system, aggregated national data often hides its variation. Records and reporting issues. Not all jurisdictions report race conviction outcomes in ways that are aggregated and publicly available. legal systems complexity, plea bargains, dismissals, pre-trial, releases, hung juries. Many cases don't follow the full path from arrest to trial to conviction. So the data is more sparse. But they will, Charlie Kirk and you conservatives will never make that nuanced explanation. Never. When it comes to black people, man. But if I bet you, if I made a similar argument for white, because I can make the argument that because white people are a bigger dominant group in America, even though it's natural, that's still a bigger problem because they're the most dominant influence group in America. And because their population is 58.7% of the country, their arrest rate is 69%. So that means that they should be heavily policed. But as this just says, a conservative would take this and say, well, you can't say that because a lot of the 69% of arrests that are attributed by white people, not all of them got convicted. But they won't make that argument for black people. Arrest data recap. Population share. White equals 58% of the U.S. population. Black equal 12%. Rape arrest 2019, FBI, UCR. White person 69.6% of rape of adult and rape arrests. 69.6%. So the dominant group in American culture is attributed to 69.6% of the arrests. Just like 12% commits to 26.8% of the adult rape and rape arrests. But again, remember, this doesn't mean that they were convicted. But white people on the conservative right will not tell that full story. And conservatives, this is why I think you and the liberals, the right and the left, you're devils of the same hell, or you're demons in the same hell space, because both of you tell half truths. Both of you do not tell the full story, because you did not tell the full story about this. So it's possible of the 26.8% of the adult arrests, there's a good portion of these that did not get convicted of it. So you can't account to this that black people were committing crimes. And on top of that, let me add something else up here that I did yesterday. Look at this. So there were black people that got exonerated, right? Black people got exonerated. Let me show you the number of this. And I did this yesterday. And I can't believe that my video got a dislike on it. So exonerations by race from January 1989 through December 2013. Look how many black people got exonerated. Right? And y'all can pause to take your time to read this if you want to. Right? Because I don't feel like going through this again. Hold on. Black individuals account for over 50% of the exonerations in serious criminal cases, highlighting significant racial disparities in the criminal justice system. Now remember, Innocence Project is doing all of this. So the Innocence Project, called white people, are seeing a systemic issue going on. 50% of the 30% got exonerated. So that means that when you go over here, 50% of that 26%, in addition or conjunction to the men that got arrested but did not get convicted, or you can prove that they committed the crime. You just got arrested for it. So that means that there's a smaller percentage of black men committing crimes or convicted of the crime. So in raw numbers, more whites were arrested for rape than blacks, but conservatives really frame it that way. When it comes to black people, conservatives take overrepresentation, 12% of that population, but 27% of the rest, and argue this is proof of cultural pathology. They use per capita framing, disproportionate crime rate, to paint black men broadly as dangerous. They really acknowledge concentrated poverty, structural disadvantage, or policing bias. Even though the majority of violent crime arrests are of white people, because they're a majority of the population, conservatives never flip the same logic back. They don't say since whites are 58% of the population, but 70% of the rape arrests, white America must have a rape problem. If I was a devil, and I can be a devil, I'm a Taurus. There's a very dark, vindictive side of Tauruses. I can give this information to a white woman, and I can help them build their feminist argument to fuck white men up. Just like white men whispered or have black women on those white talk shows in the 80s and 90s and have black women disparaging black men, and you laughed and kicked and cackled about it. Or just like how white men use at the top, use white women to whisper into black women's ears to disrupt our communities. I could do this for white women too. I could be a devil and whisper this and help them build a case against why white men are evil and wicked and bad. I could do that, just like you white men have done to black men. Instead, they use raw numbers. More whites are arrested, but that's just because there are more whites to minimize, right? So, right. So listen to this. Instead, they use raw numbers. More whites are arrested, but that's just because there are more whites to minimize. So because their population is bigger, right, it might not seem as a bigger problem. It might seem as something natural to the ecosystem. There's, of course, that white people are a bigger population, they're going to get arrested more. But that doesn't take it away from the fact that you still have a crime. 69% of your population, the rest outweighs your population. So there's still an arrest problem. There's still a crime problem going on in your community. Maybe it's that you're naturally inherently violent and rape thirsty. Maybe that. Who knows? So they switched methods depending on the racial group. Against black people, per capita framing disproportionately equals pathological. For white people, raw number framing, majority, equals natural, no pathological. So they did so even though when they frame it as raw numbers, it's a natural thing. So they don't pathologize white men, which is wrong. Because they're the majority and it might be natural, but there's still a crime problem going on with the dominant group. And remember, white people are more spread out across America in rural areas and suburban areas. They're not concentrated. So it's hard to predict them in more spread out areas and more dispersed places. So their crime will be more of a bigger problem than niggas in a concentrated space. Now, I'm not excusing black folks. I'm not trying to take away from black people's wickedness against each other. Black people, we got to clean that up. But Charlie Kirk, he didn't make the argument about, maybe America has a crime problem in both black communities and white communities. In his speeches, he's targeted black people. And the reason why he targeted black people was to speak to his base, because that's what his base wanted to hear. And it was also to attack the left, right? It was to attack the left because the left weaponizes black people's issues and to go against the right. So he was attacking the left, but he was just attacking the weapons that the left was using against the right. But he was speaking to his base on the right. That's why I don't like the left or the right wing, because they're devils. Both of them are devils, and they lie and cherry pick, right? That's cherry picking. That's not an honest critique. It's rhetorical manipulation. The argument I'm making, if you apply Kirk's same logic fairly, we could deviantly but consistently say, since 69.6% of the rape arrests are of white people, and whites are only 58% of the population, clearly white America has a rape epidemic. Maybe police should be more aggressive in white communities. Of course, that would be misleading and unfair, because arrest does not equal convictions, and structural contextual factors matter for everyone. But it exposes how the conservative talking point against black people is also misleading and unfair. Where Kirk went wrong, he used arrest stats without nuance when talking about black men. He failed to apply the same standards of analysis to white crime. He ignored the role of over-policing and systemic bias in Black communities. He erased the humanity of Black men by not acknowledging wrongful arrests, Innocence Project exonerations, and police misconduct. That's what he did, Charlie Kirk. So my critique is on point. If arrest data alone is not enough to condemn Black people, then arrest data alone should be enough to condemn white people. But since the argument sounds absurd on flip, it proves the conservative framing is flawed from the start. What I found, FBI uniform crime reports and national incident-based reporting system provide numbers of arrests, but they don't track conviction rates by race. Conservatives. There are clearance rates for some crimes, meaning solved or closed by arrest, but those are not the same as convictions. Clearance equals police believe they identified the arrest as suspects. It doesn't mean the case was tried or that the person was convicted. For example, in 2017, FBI data gives clearance. I think I read this already. All right. Bottom line, Charlie Kirk, into your base. I wish you was alive so I can debate you. And I wish I heard your talking points earlier so that I can properly critique you and then we can have a face-to-face conversation. I wish you were alive. Because, you know, and to you Black conservatives that's going to watch my thing and dislike my channel and not like me, you cannot tell the liberals have facts and data. But then when I present you a fact or data, you disagree with the facts and the data that I present to you, that I'm correcting you with. Understand? You have to follow the same line of logic that you want everybody else to follow. Anyway, this is Kid Shorty Gamer Nation. Like, share, and subscribe.